Hello and welcome. In this tutorial we're going to be looking at story point of view. The first video we looked at first person and second person. In this video we're going to be looking at third person omniscient and third person limited. So third person omniscient. What are the advantages and disadvantages of that? Well, like a TV show, you can show whatever action you want wherever you want. You can show any character, bad guy, good guy, neutral guy, whatever. Anything that is going to advance the plot, you can show it. If you want to make a surprise, bring in some dramatic irony, then you can show whatever you want. You get to see inside the heads of multiple characters, which can be okay, but it can also be a disadvantage. Disadvantages is that it can be confusing and awkward at times. Modern readers tend to prefer being inside the head of one point of view character instead of being inside everyone's head. It may accidentally make the reader feel stupid by hitting them over the head with character thoughts. So sometimes it's better to leave a little bit of mystery in the dialogue and in the action. So let me just give an example of that. So I'll just scroll down here. So I have a quick little conversation here. John thought that Lisa was beautiful. So obviously we're looking at it from John's perspective. Lisa said, "Hi John, you look good today," I guess. So we don't really know why she says, "I guess." If it was third person omniscient, we might have Lisa's next thought be, his suit looked pretty good, but she wasn't sure about the hat. It looks a little bit like a peacock. There you go. It takes a little bit away from the tension if you know exactly what she's thinking. So sometimes third person omniscient can be a little bit awkward and difficult, and generally just modern readers just don't like it. They'd rather be in the head of one character to basically look from their perspective, and then that's it. Dune by Frank Herbert was written in third person omniscient, and Dune is a fantastic book. So it can be done well, but generally third person limited is going to give you much of the same advantages and fewer of the disadvantages. So let's look at third person limited here. So advantages. Again, you can show whatever action you want wherever you want as long as you have a point of view character there. So as long as you have a point of view character there, you can show anything you need. On the other hand, you should try to limit the number of point of view characters, unless you're George R.R. Martin. Why? Well, the number of point of view characters increases the complexity of the plot, as all of these point of view characters must interact in some small way. Especially if you have 3 point of view characters, you know that their storylines are eventually going to have to intersect. Now, they don't need to be physically close to one another, but their plot lines need to intersect in some sort of interesting way. Another advantage to this third person, which is also possible in third person omniscient, is that dramatic irony can be used. So, if you're writing a mystery novel and one character finds out that the bad guy is going to return to the scene of the crime and try and ambush everyone who comes to see it. And then you have another point of view character who has already left. He checks his cell phone. Oh, his cell phone's dead. He says, "Oh well." And he heads to the scene of the crime. And the reader can feel that tension, knowing that the criminal is probably there waiting, and now the main character's cell phone has died. So dramatic irony can be very, very useful in third person perspective. So you can be more epic in scope, a la George R.R. Martin. You can see lots of different points of view and get a feel for a conflict that is bigger than one character. So that's an advantage. You can be more epic in scope instead of personal. You can still be very personal, but you can look at it from a bigger perspective too. Disadvantages, it feels less personal in some ways in first person perspective because in first-person perspective, that main character can sometimes talk to the reader. You may feel the need to cheat sometimes if you're writing and throw in a random point of view character to show something strange. So you need to show that the bad guy's doing something crazy. So you just pick a point of view character, you show the scene, and you never use that character again. Now, that's a little bit awkward. Typically, if you're going to put a point of view character in at all, you're going to want him in for more than one scene. But you can do it. It's been done. It's been done well. Whatever. So, those are your basic advantages and disadvantages. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the very, very first paragraph of A Game of Thrones by George R. R. Martin. It's a free sample bit that's available on Amazon. So, let's take a look at it. The morning had dawned clear and cold, with a crispness that hinted at the end of summer. They set forth at daybreak to see a man beheaded, 20 in all, and Bran rode among them, nervous with excitement. This was the first time he had been deemed old enough to go with his lord father and his brothers to see the king's justice done. It was the 9th year of summer and the 7th of Bran's life. So this is perfect. It introduces the setting. We know that it's a semi-medieval setting. By the fact that it's the 9th year of summer, you know that it's a fantasy setting, because usually you don't have 9 years of summer. And they're going to see a man beheaded. Now, they say Bran's name first. Usually in third person, you're going to have the main character saying something or responding or thinking something in the first couple of paragraphs. You need to make it clear whose point of view you're viewing it from. If the reader is unsure of whose perspective they're seeing it from, it's going to be very frustrating for them and it's going to feel awful. So make it clear. Here we see that it's Bran's point of view in the chapter. It's he, she, and character names, so third person, and we're only going to be seeing it from Bran's perspective. So he can describe what's going along here, and maybe the reader will understand things that a 7-year-old might not, but the fact is he might describe it, but he's not going to show thoughts that a reader might think, only shots that he's only going to show what Bran himself might be thinking. So, third person limited, there's a good example, Game of Thrones by George R. R. Martin. So we looked a little bit at the third person limited and third person omniscient. So again, I would recommend first person or third person limited. These are the ones that readers are most comfortable with nowadays. They work very well. You need to practice at them because they're very, very different. Jim Butcher, who wrote the Dresden Files, which I talked about in my first video, said that when he started writing the Dresden Files, he felt he couldn't write third person limited to save his life. So he wrote it in first person, and he does it extremely well. But this is something you need to practice. You need to practice to get better at it, but you also need to know your own writing style. So if you're going to try and write in one of these, practice, see what feels right for you, and you need to figure out which one works for your story. More personal, first person, as long as that main character is going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Third person limited, you can have lots of point of view characters, be a little bit more epic in scope, see it from a broader perspective, but you need to make sure you just see it from their perspectives and you use them all. One of the problems with third person omniscient or limited is that if the reader does not care about a certain character, they may attempt to skip over that character's chapters, which can be very problematic. So you need to build empathy for all of your point of view characters. Otherwise, you're going to have an issue. George R. R. Martin does this well. Other authors do it well. But it is difficult to make sure that the readers have at least some sympathy or empathy for all your point of view characters to make sure that they want to keep reading. Because all of that is going to add up towards your greater plan for the plot. So, that's all for the second video, and thanks for watching.